Roll call. Good morning, thank you everyone. Welcome everyone in the chamber and online. We've got Councillor Milena and Councillor Ewan online. And anyone else?
Not at this
We're echoing. So hopefully we'll sort that out. Yeah. Yeah. And welcome back to Māngai Jadine. Fantastic to have you at the table again. So we'll start with a karakia. Yeah, okay, we'll pause for a moment. You guys don't want to hear me twice? God coming down. Yeah. Okay, we're sorted. That wasn't the intention. All right. Let's begin with the karakia. Tuia I runga, tuia I raro, tuia I roto, tuia I waho, tuia ngā kaimahi o te kaunihira o Kirikiriroa, whaia te iti kahurangi, kia u, kia mau, kia ita, haumie, huie, taikia. Kia ora. Right, apologies. We have apologies for lateness from councillors Kish, Ewan and Mia Paula. Are there any other apologies for today?
Pop out at 10, but
At 10.
just for a council meeting, but I think, yeah,
Okay.
Mayor Paula does too, but I think it's going to, we're trying to time it for morning tea, but that won't be at 10.
Okay, cool, thank you. I'll move the apologies then, and Councillor Maxine seconds. All those in favour? Declarations of interest? Very interested, excellent. And public forum? Oh, we did miss the agenda, despite me having this right there in front of me. We're going to confirm the agenda, so I'll move to confirm, and Councillor Louise seconds. All those in favour? Aye, thank you. Okay, now we're moving on to public forum. Could I please welcome Simon Perry? So speaking on item... We don't usually have sound effects. Although maybe that's something new we could try. So speaking to item 7, strategic issues, and also the district plan update. And Simon, welcome to the chamber. You've got around about 5 minutes for speaking and questions, although I can be a little bit flexible.
No problem. No, morena everyone, kia ora. I'm here representing a couple of organisations, Perry Group and as a developer, but also Bridge Housing Trust as an affordable housing developer. So thanks for the opportunity just to have a few words about the upcoming Plan Change 16. Is that the right number? So really congratulations on starting the process in terms of the affordable housing. We've been down that road a couple of years, so I've just got half a dozen slides. I'm not sure how I operate it. Is there someone? Is there a...
Here we
There we go.
Yeah, so
You'll
just
do that?
give us a
Where's
nod.
Amy? Oh, thanks, Amy.
We'll change
So just a bit on Perry's. We've been around for about 70 years, started by the business by my dad and contracting and so forth, and got involved in property a couple of decades later. Just move on there if you like, Anna. We started the trust probably 45 years ago now, and got involved in a lot of different projects, from river rides to, school camps, lodges and so forth, river rides, etc., involved with velodromes and lots of other things, mainly in the sport and recreation area and health and wellbeing. We did a bit of navel gazing about 2 years ago and decided that affordable housing was so important to New Zealanders. The number of families that can't afford to get into homes and have to rent or in substandard housing. So we've really kind of pivoted towards that sector in the last couple of years, and we set up Bridge Housing from there. So if we go to the next one. So bridge housing, we've got, on the one hand, we've got commercial developments such as Te Awa Lakes, River Terraces, and then other projects we're working on, Peak Mews and Hinamo Apartments. That's all under a trust, non-profit, I guess, umbrella. So just in terms of the projects that we've got on at the moment, perhaps if you flick to the next one, we've got Peak Mews. So that's our first project for Bridge Housing Trust, and that's we've got 47 homes consented. We've built 8, and we're about to start a project, next phase of around 25 homes. Those are terraced homes. We bought a block, we donated, a block of about 2 hectares just in Peak Road opposite the Velodrome and on the outskirts of Cambridge. So in all we'll get to about 65, 70 affordable homes there, and we'll talk a little bit more about that model. Just moving on, our next project, which we're really excited about because we know that the Hamilton City are very interested in promoting housing within the CBD. And so we've contributed our head office, actually, which we've been in since the mid-80s. I think I was at university when we first moved in. It was an old warehouse. We bought the property next door, which will remain nameless, but was a different activity at the time. And we now have a block where we're developing 42 apartments. We're about to apply for consent for those, and thanks to Hamilton City's Municipal Endowment Fund, which was really helpful in terms of raising the fund to do this, along with MHUD, we're hoping to be successful with another $10 million affordable housing grant. So that bridge trust that we have can access that government funding. So with that $20 million, we'll develop 42 1 and 2 bedroomed affordable homes in the CBD along Tristram Street there. And we're going to call that Hinamo Apartments, which sort of recognises the historical significance of iwi along that borough. So moving on from there, Te Awa Lakes, that's just a snapshot of that, a couple of thousand homes, and again with the developer's hat on, we've committed to affordable housing there. But it's more of a negotiation with the city as opposed to an inclusionary zoning process, which we're promoting going forward. So a couple of hundred minimum, but we hope to do about 20% affordable homes within that development. And moving forward from there, keep rolling, I'm conscious of time. Just in terms of bridge housing, so it's about empowering communities through quality affordable housing. So that's our goal. We've got a few different models, if we just keep moving. Just to refresh you here, our target audience, if you like, is in the middle. It's first home families, it's young families, and those who can earn 130 to 150,000 household income. So it's, you know, our kids basically. We're talking about our target group. We're not talking about social housing. We're talking about affordable housing. So just keep moving through here, and I'll 3 or 4. So our models: affordable rentals, secure homes, that's leasehold, affordable freehold, and traditional freehold. So those are the 4 models that we're targeting. And just talking about inclusionary zoning now, we've modelled bridge housing on the Queenstown Trust model, which has been around for 15 years. And, you know, they had a very slow start, but if you look at their income that they've generated to their balance sheet and to the housing product that they've created, 80% of it there, or 75% of it, is from the inclusionary zoning. And that, whilst they're going through a process now, initially that was a negotiation through the councils, driving the developers to shake hands with the trust and commit between 2% and 5% of their sections, or the value of their sections, to the trust. And that's where the bulk of those, success has come from, as inclusionary zoning. Without that, they'd be a very small organisation. So we're promoting the same thing. If we move to the next one, please. In terms of the Queenstown, they're now really starting to hit their straps. Julie, who we've had at our Affordable Housing Forum back in February, they've got about 8 projects on the go. So they've done about 260 homes, which has been a bit slow progress over the 15 years, but we'll see a couple of hundred coming through in the next couple of years, because that inclusionary zoning's really accelerated things. And you know the crisis that they've got down there. So we're a big fan of that inclusionary zoning. Popping through, you'll see the key thing with inclusionary zoning and I guess affordable housing trusts such as Bridge is perpetuity. We've all seen the Kiwi Build model where, yep, you build some cheap houses, if you like, or affordable houses. The first homeowner gets the benefit of I guess, a discount, and then they can sell it on to at market, and that affordability is lost. So that perpetuity in terms of the ownership of the land, so we would very much urge council to go down that track where any, I suppose, inclusionary zoning benefits to trusts are in perpetuity, and that's not lost to the next family. So big fan of that. Couple more to finish off. We'd just like to, I guess, congratulate Hamilton City along with Waipawa and Waikato District for heading down this path. As a developer, we think the costs on a developer, on a landowner, are very small relative to the benefits to the community and to the families that benefit from the affordable housing. The reality is that developers are not targeting that sector because there's not much margin or any margin in affordable housing. When you're building the costs of construction and land and so forth, they target higher value housing that first income families and so on, young families, can't afford. So they end up going to investors, and people are stuck in that rental cycle. So in the cost to developers, we've looked at a lot of research in terms of overseas. Yes, there is a small discount in the value of the land, but there is still a windfall gain to that landowner, and the developers still make an acceptable margin. So the costs really, despite what you may hear from developers, are very small relative to the benefits to our wider community. So thank you for proceeding.
Thank you. I will allow some time for a few questions, if there are some. So, Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Simon, excellent presentation. Quick question. The slide on target groups and affordable housing, that is the best definition of affordable housing because it covers what is excluded and what is included. Can we use it?
Oh, can you use the slides?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. You're very welcome
Thank you. Thank you.
to take up any collateral we have. Jen is a maestro at, we've had 2 years of foraging through different materials across the board and our own materials, so happy to share that.
Very good. Big help.
Thank you. And Councillor Moko.
Kia ora, Simon. Thank you for your presentation. Absolutely loved it. Had an opportunity to spend some time with Jennifer and get a pretty good overview of the projects that you have. My one is a very simple question. Do you think that there's a housing crisis here?
Oh, look, I looked at a world report, and New Zealand sits at, I think, number 3 in unaffordability as a country, and certainly Hamilton and Auckland and those sort of cities, we're very much in crisis mode with affordability. There are some cities around the world where 3 times they consider above 3 times household income to be expensive, and we're sitting at 10 or 11. So
Thank
absolutely.
you for that, Simon.
Thank you. And thanks again, Simon, for coming in. And I also want to acknowledge Jen Palmer behind you, who I know has been putting a huge amount of work also into this initiative. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
And before we invite our next speaker up, I do want to remind elected members to keep questions largely to clarification rather than possibly political points or anything else. You'll never do that. Only a reminder. It was a clarification, okay. Right, I'll ask Axel Beck from the Waikato Housing Initiative.
Kia ora,
Thanks.
everyone. Good morning. And I'd be disappointed if you didn't ask for that clarification, Michael, but just saying. Yes, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to address you once again. And it follows on very nicely from Simon's presentation. And I guess I just want to take a little step back and speak sort of about council and the hundreds of pages that you regularly have in front of you at various committees, it's really easy to miss these opportunities to celebrate progress. It gets lost in all of the other things that need to be done. And goodness knows there's a lot of challenges, in front of you anyway, in terms of the affordability of the services you need to provide to communities, the community that's in your care. But today is one of those moments where it is actually appropriate just to celebrate. So, picking up on the inclusionary zoning in particular, which is in your report today, there is a commitment here to take this work forward. I note the media release yesterday that's on your website that talks about the commitment to progressing inclusionary zoning, and I really congratulate you for that. It's quite significant. Third council only, I think, in the country to go down this route, Waipa being the second. So to have this region move now is something I really want to support on behalf of WHI, and give you the courage to continue this this process at pace. I would also put a couple of pleas in there with it. On page 23 at the top there, you talk about clause 44. You talk about the further actions that Mark and his team are putting through the housing working group under Anna's care. You quite rightly note that there are actions that are not yet scoped or funded, so I encourage you to have courage to continue to look at the appropriate funding as we go through the LTP discussions, because that is important. IZ, of course, has already been pulled out, but there are a number of other really important initiatives that can be progressed at pace. So I encourage you to keep in good heart and continue with that priority. And specifically on page 33 of your report, item 7, you've actually got a table of what some of those actions might be, including the internal HCC process reviews, which I think is important, providing priority rollout and certainty of timing for Three Waters infrastructure. That's a key issue in the city, particularly for infill, to have that infrastructure enabling new housing options. So that's something I applaud you for pointing out here, but also encourage you to keep a very sharp focus on. And I note there the reactionary infrastructure fund, it's actually a new idea to respond to that. So I applaud and support that. I think it's important that we basically recognise the importance of infrastructure in unlocking more dense forms of housing, which will bring with it affordable options. And finally, I'd also encourage you to continue with this broader view across all of your policies and processes, because housing actually sneaks into a whole lot of different things. It might not specifically be about housing, but actually it impacts on the way in which we create livable, connected and thriving communities, not just more housing in and of its own right. And I know Mayor Paula has consistently talked about the importance of creating communities rather than just more housing, though more housing is desperately needed. And examples might be, and I think, Anna, we talked about this in the working group, in the connections policy, for example, having housing as a reference within that policy as well. So that's it, really. I'm just here to speak in support of the work that you've got ongoing and that you're now bringing into the light of the public really for the first time. So here to support the work that you're doing and really with you, I guess, to celebrate the progress that the city is making in this space. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Axel. And it's always good to acknowledge positive things that we're doing. So thank you very much for that and for the work that you're doing with the Regional Housing Initiative. Cool. It doesn't look like we have any questions, so you're free. Thank you. And lastly, Thomas Gibbons, speaking on item 7, strategic issues and district plan update as well.
Kia ora koutou. I won't keep you long. I'm Thomas Gibbons. I'm here wearing the hat of co-chair of Waikato Community Lands Trust today. So first of all, just echoing what has already been said, congratulations on getting to this point with the inclusionary zoning proposals. Really looking forward to the next steps with those. Just wanting to also encourage among that there's many other steps that can be taken as well. Inclusionary zoning is only one part of a toolbox of various things that can be done to enhance affordable housing, and many of those are within your control, I suppose, is the best way to put it. Just wanted to touch on a couple of things to do with Community Lands Trust, just noting it, paragraph 50 there. When I read it, it says minimum of 5 trustees. We have actually updated that, so we have a minimum of 3 and we've got 4, so we're still compliant in case there are any concerns about that. And just also wanted to touch on the annual report's been included. The nature of an annual report is it's always a little bit backward looking, so just a few comments on the forward looking aspects. There is this real opportunity for this trust, starting with the Firth Street development, to, I suppose, present a range of different products to people, and those different products can achieve a whole range of different outcomes, and they can take place at various points along the housing need continuum, because there are many sorts of different need out there. That's really all I wanted to touch on. Just encourage you to keep up the work and keep making progress.
Thank you. And it doesn't look like we have any questions, so you're also free to enjoy the rest of your day. So thank you so much, Thomas, for coming in. Cheers. Okay. Right, we're going to move on to the confirmation of the open minutes for 17th of August 2023. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Emma, and seconded by Councillor Moko. All those in favour? Aye. Aye, thank you. And Chair's report, I'll take it as read. I'll open for questions if there are any, but if they are around the Plan Change 14, I do just ask that wait until we get to the district plan update for that. No questions. All right. Cool. Well, I will move that. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Maxine. Is there any debate? No. All those, there was a little move towards the microphone. No. All those in favour? Aye. Okay. We're at strategic issues. And since we're already being so efficient, I was just going to say we're going to try and have Waka Kotahi come in around 11:30ish, and so to be as efficient as possible, if you've got questions that I guess probably could be taken offline, just hold on to those, and I'm happy to arrange for you to speak with staff afterwards. But otherwise, let's go on to land use planning with Mark Davey. Okay.
Cool. Good morning, everybody. I think this is quite a short update this time. So paragraph 8, look, work is progressing through Futureproof to do 2 things. Firstly, the housing business capacity assessment, which is a really fundamental piece of analysis that underpins a lot of our planning work sub-regionally. So the residential component to that is nearing completion. We are doing some further refinements to the industrial aspect of that. So we're hoping that'll be complete within the next few weeks. That will then inform the future development strategy. So the future development strategy is a requirement under the National Policy Statement for the sub-region to undertake to determine the settlement pattern effectively across the city and sub-region. So a really important piece of work. We're looking to go out for consultation with that later this year or early next year, depending on how we progress. But that will be coming through to this committee before it goes out. From a Hamilton City point of view, we're not anticipating any significant changes to the settlement pattern. but we can discuss that with you when that comes through. I'm not sure, Madam Chair, if you want me to go take the rest as read.
Unless there's any changes.
Yeah.
And are there any questions at this stage on any of the items under land use planning? So that's the future development strategy, the housing and business assessment or resource management. One, yep, Councillor Moko. Oh, sorry, Councillor Andrew first, yep.
Thank you, Chair. Mark, so the HBA, what impact is things like the wastewater limitations and the flooding having on that assessment?
Quite significant, yeah. So for the first time, this phase or this cycle of the HBA is now taking a more fulsome assessment of the infrastructure ready component of the test, particularly in regards to Three Waters, based on the new information we have regarding the capacity of our Three Waters networks. So that is obviously impacting when some of the brownfield or infill capacity will be development ready. So the modelling takes account of that constraint, that infrastructure capacity constraint, and therefore brings down the total quantum of brownfield or infill capacity available until such time as we have certainty that there's going to be an infrastructure solution to service it. The preliminary results with respect to residential still show that we have sufficient residential supply, because notwithstanding the constraints in the brownfield environment, we have significant greenfield opportunities in the form of Peacock, Rototuna, Rotokauri, and the likes.
Right. Next question is there an economic viability component to the HBA?
Yes, there is, yep. So, and there's a whole raft of input assumptions that go into that in terms of understanding a whole lot of the raw material costs, construction costs, the various technical inputs that are required, so architects, engineers, etc. And that all builds up to determine what is market feasible, if you like. So we then, our growth funding analytics team have a very advanced feasibility model that goes parcel by parcel, analysing the feasibility for each of those parcels through time with a whole array of input assumptions to basically determine whether or not any given parcel could be A, subdivided and an additional dwelling put on the back of it, or B, fully redeveloped and so therefore removing the dwelling and putting in a row of townhouses, for example.
And finally, can I get a copy of the assumptions?
Yep. Yes, yep.
Thanks.
Yep. Pleasure.
Questions? And Councillor Moko.
Yeah, hey, Mark, morena. Hey, I didn't see any sort of references around Papakainga in that part of your report. Admittedly, it's just a very short snippet, but I'll also note that in attachment 2, there are no references to Papakainga or provisions to accommodate Papakainga in there. And I think, where's that at?
Yep, that's an oversight. We can come back to that. Yep, that's important. Would also be quite keen to have a conversation with you offline, Moko, in terms of the Papakainga provisions. Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Good spotting.
Thank you. And I did see Papakainga was, though, on the Housing Working Group list of actions.
Yeah,
so
I thought it was in here,
Yeah.
but if it's not, that's a mistake on my part, and will
that
be
might
remedied.
be in the housing part of the agenda of this item, just slightly later on.
Or I must be blind,
Yeah.
but there's nothing in the draft affordable housing, which is where it should also sit.
I agree
Okay,
with you, Moko. It's a mission on my part that should be in there. Yep.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. Are there any other questions for this one? No? Yeah, should we cover, yeah, let's go on to housing while you're here, Mark.
Thanks, it's very kind. So, yeah, look, I'll just find my place here, 1 second. The housing working group's been established. We've had two meetings, and that's effectively yielded the draft affordable housing key actions in attachment 2. We note in the report that there are obviously a range of initiatives or levers the council can pull. We're currently, and we'll be talking about that soon in terms of inclusionary zoning as one lever available to council. The other is looking at available development sites that the council may own, where there might be opportunities to yield affordable housing results on those. There are a number of other actions within the draft action list. Now, many of those are unfunded, but we'll continue to work through that with the housing working group. I'll pause there.
Councillor McCall.
Apologies, it's there.
Yeah, I was just doing a screenshot to send to you. It's, here we are. Excellent. Page 32. All right, now if there aren't any questions, that's all good. Thank you so much for that. Oh, there is, yes. So just anything on land use planning or housing, so that would include the housing working group update, inclusionary zoning, or the community lands trust. Yep.
And I should have, apologies, I should have asked this at the public forum. Really stupid question I'm going to ask. But on in page 48, sorry, point 48 on page 23, it says that the Lands Trust has purchased 4 units in Firth Street. And they're currently tenanted and they're staying tenanted. I was just wondering how that moves the dial to adding to affordable housing. I thought that the mandate was about building new homes.
My insight or sort of understanding of that is that the Lands Trust was provided a grant of $2 million from council. They were challenged to find suitable sites to develop, and therefore opted to purchase a site that already had dwellings on it to provide for affordable housing, as opposed to going through a development process by acquiring bare land and then building on that. And it really stems from the fact that $2 million doesn't get you very far.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So then am I to then assume, and I don't like to assume, that the rent has then perhaps gone down for these tenants, and then that ticks the box for affordable housing, or?
So yeah. So again, I mean.
Sorry, I should have asked when they were sitting at the table.
I mean, look, I might come back and kind of confirm the details with you. But there's 4. They've effectively purchased 4 units. My understanding is that across those 4 units, as you heard from Thomas earlier, they're looking to trial 3 or 4 different tenure options.
Okay.
So one would be rent to buy. I think another is effectively a discounted rental model.
Okay.
I think they might also be looking to experiment with one of them being some sort of leasehold option.
Yeah.
So they're
Okay,
effectively
well,
testing the market with different options there. Just the other point I'd add is that the attachment 3, the annual report. Now, obviously, they're running a financial year ending 31 March. So the purchase of that property hasn't yet shown up in their annual report, but that has transacted. It has taken place.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Look, I can just add to. I think Mark has given a great summary, Councillor O'Leary, in terms of their intended usage of those properties. I think the other interesting part to this is the future role of the Waikato Lands Trust and how that sits in an ecosystem along with, say, Bridge Trust and inclusionary zoning. Because ultimately, the Lands Trust needs a source of income to ultimately allow it to do what it was set up to do. And I think that's really the conversation the working group will need to examine. And as inclusionary zoning progresses, one of the outcomes is that it provides a source of either cash or land that needs to be held somewhere in perpetuity. And one of the intentions when the Land Trust was first established was that that could be a repository for exactly that purpose. So those are things that we will work through with the working group to give it ultimately critical mass. And we need critical mass of provider or providers in this area to do the various things that both Thomas, Axel and Simon Perry touched on.
Cool, thank you. Right. Yes, Mangai Jadine.
Kia ora, just by way of update, Mark could, and congratulations on your new addition to your whānau. If you could just let the team that aren't part of the housing working group know in relation to the definition of affordable housing that Axel and his team are working on so that that housing working group can progress. Kia ora.
Yeah, kia ora, thanks. The Waikato Housing Initiative has engaged Infometrics, an economics consultancy firm, to come up with a definition of affordable housing, because I think often we all talk about affordable housing and it can mean a multitude of different things to different people. And when we're talking about tangibly delivering some affordable housing, so for example the Tristram Street development that Perry's are doing, we want to be clear as to, well, what type of affordable housing is it? Is it a rent to buy? Is it discounted below some, the median sales price in some way? There's a whole variety of different options. So we want to be really clear as to, well, what is it, and what segment of the market is it looking to address? And that was that housing continuum slide that came up before. So I think having that common reference point and common understanding is quite foundational to this work. Thanks, Margaret.
Thank you. Online, we're happy online. Yeah, okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Mark. Thanks for being in here today. I'm just thinking for the next part, strategic infrastructure, let's take it by exception, so I won't call, we'll see if there are any questions first before we ask staff up, otherwise we'll take it as read. So for the MSP and the Future Proof Public Transport Committee, are there any questions around that? The Three Waters, what's it? Oh, sorry, Jadine.
Sorry, I was a bit late to the party on that
I'll
one.
ask Phil, would you like to come up then for this one?
I've got a bit of a lead in, so maybe I start with that, if that's okay. So I'm talking paragraph 23, page 18. So I just note in the recommendations endorsed by the Future Proof Implementation Committee, in acknowledging Te Ture Whaimana, establishing a principle that the transport network is designed in a way that supports the restoration and protection of Waikato awa. So to me, I ask the question, what does or how will the detail, or how will the river be restored and protected? What will that look like in the business cases? I don't have a sense of that.
Thank you for the question. We're at a very early stage, I guess, of the business case process in we're adopting the high-level principles, and in terms of the transport work we're doing, we've got that broad strategic direction, and the work that is covered off in my reporting talks about the next level of detail that we're about to encounter. So without trying to be too broad, we're basically going into a period now where we're trying to answer that very question, to understand how we can reflect those aspirations in a business case process. Now we're getting to the point where we are starting to design things, and we are starting to engage with a wider, a public and stakeholder and iwi engagement type process. So I think the fact that we've got it into our core principles in all the future-proof work streams is a really big core achievement, reflecting what Hamilton City Council wants to do. We just need to make sure that we do actually reflect it when we come to design, understanding impacts and where we build it into a programme. So if you can bear with me a few months, we'll obviously be back in this room and talking about those very issues, but it's very front of mind for all of us. Yeah, if that's... if that's good enough.
And I'm just recognising that that will be an area that I'll be very interested in the future, because it does align to Waikato Tainui's Environment Plan Te
Absolutely.
Tumu Tai Pāritai. So kia ora.
Very much led by other people as well, I should acknowledge, yeah.
Mā ngā Jadine, Councillor Moko.
Is the number 28, current tasks, is the freight and logistics study being commissioned by us or by Futureproof?
It's being commissioned by us on behalf of Futureproof. So we do a lot of the procurement for Futureproof because we're just a little bit more geared up to do it from a scale sense. So we're about a week away from doing that.
With all the work that Waikato Tainui has done over there, I would have thought there would be some information already at hand that we could potentially use.
Probably about a third of that work is engagement. So we do have a big literature research and some stakeholder engagement lined up. So that is a big part of that piece of work. So we'll definitely be talking to all the major players, for want of a better expression.
How much is it costing us?
Well, we're in the middle of a procurement process, so I've got an estimate. I probably shouldn't say it out loud in a public
fair
forum,
enough.
but I'm happy to
Okay.
talk afterwards. Yeah, I haven't actually seen the tenders yet, so.
I think that the key through the chair is, you're quite right, Councillor, there is a range of information that the team would want to ensure that we are referencing. Ministry of Transport, TGH, Te Waka, for examples of recent studies and information that consider this very topic. So absolutely, we don't want to reinvent what's already in existence. It's how do we optimise information.
Very happy to sit down and go through what we've got planned and take some inputs.
Kia ora, thank you. Good questions. All right, and just while Phil is here, so Transport Working Group, any other questions around transport? Otherwise, we'll move to the Three Waters connection. So thank you, Phil. Okay, any questions on the Three Waters connections review? Yes, Councillor Anna. So who do we have to speak on this?
I may need to answer that, or with Chris's assistance.
Yeah, so it's just a question that really Axel also asked in his presentation this morning around the potential for the connections review policy to have some aspect of prioritisation to affordable housing. Just wondering if that's on the table, if that's being looked at.
There are many elements to the policy review at the moment, so that is one aspect of many things that are being talked about, Councillor. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And any questions around Eastern Transport Corridor? That will be coming back to us fairly soon. Okay, and finally, the funding and finance part of this item. No questions? Yes?
Are you up to attachment 5?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just have a question, correct me if I'm wrong. So this white paper, I'm on page 66, is the white paper to our prospectus, to attract a city deal. Here he comes, Mr. DC himself. Even though I'm not asking about DCs.
Good morning.
Morning. Is that right?
Councillor O'Leary, they are different, so they're related. So I'm talking about the white paper and the Metro prospectus.
Yeah.
So the origin of the white paper was to try and penetrate the central government thinking around partnerships, major funding partnerships between central and local government, and to put in partnership with Tauranga and Queenstown, and also with Auckland, who stepped away in the end, probably due to their mayor having a different ambition. it was to try and entrench some principles that in those major funding partnerships to allow efficiency, to allow recognition of the track record of the growth cities who deliver, good infrastructure on time, and distinguish the growth councils from potentially other councils that may not. And so there's in the white paper you'll see those 20 principles. So they're supposed to be agnostic to politics and to any particular prospectus. They're supposed to be, this is a foundation that we would like those funding partnerships to be based on, from a governance through to the way that they're structured financially, and then through to how risk is allocated. So they're more of a theoretical set of principles to do that. And then our Hamilton prospectus and Tauranga's and Queenstown's will want those principles to be entrenched, but the prospectuses are quite different. So they are funding requests, they're bespoke, they have all of the the material that Hannah and Blair have put together around what does Hamilton future-proof region want or need. So hopefully that's the distinction, as a base set of principles generally apply, and then a prospectus is a prospectus.
So I was in the meeting with Mayor Southgate and Councillor Ewan when we met with national MPs, and we are meeting with all of them prior to the election, although I think we've run out of time now. But I was on the understanding, we presented the prospectus and we got some feedback. I was on the understanding that the white paper would be the really direct ask, would come with the detail of the projects and the sell of the Golden Triangle, so that whoever the new government is, they cannot ignore that the Golden Triangle, we're joined up, we are a great investment. But this is all just about funding principles, which I'm assuming whoever government's going to be, they're going to have their own funding principles anyway. So have I missed something, or is there another white paper?
Councillor Angela, you're 100% correct. At the moment, there is a letter that's being drafted across those three mayors, outlining the exact thing that you're talking about, what the strong value proposition is, what where non-negotiables are for an incoming government. The white paper is essentially a policy document. It's to go to the technical staff that sit within government ministries. The political cell is our prospectus, which is pretty much distilling down what we've agreed strategically with Future Proof. It's our story regardless of who's in power. It is good quality planning. That is what we anchor our conversations to with anyone who comes in. The letter that's going to accompany or that's going to be sent to whoever's coming into government is exactly what you're outlining there. Here's our direct message that goes alongside that. So
there's also one further piece of work that's also been completed this week, which is directly in response to that meeting that you attended. So the prospectus is politically agnostic, is tailored and as a representation of the future-proof Metro Hamilton area as to what's needed to unlock our potential, our future. We are preparing something directly for that particular party that you met with, and that has been literally finalised today.
Okay.
So it's very dynamic, and as you say, we're trying to both respond to and be proactive as to whomever may be in government, but equally not just present a Hamilton picture, but a Hamilton future-proof picture, and a lot of the work is also to ensure that what we produce, our colleague neighbouring councils are also particularly on board with, and that we can present it as a united picture.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Andrew.
So all this alternative funding or off-balance sheet funding, is it going to be at a higher or lower interest rate than the LGFA?
It is expected to have a certain margin over and above LGFA. We haven't got into that. We haven't got that far down the track yet, but something like 1% to 2%. If you just put them down on the table and compare them, but there are differences. So the IFF funding is across a 30-year term, so that the term matches the useful life of the asset there or thereabouts. So there are benefits of the funding over and above the local government funding. However, it's expected to have a margin of about 1 to 2% at this stage.
So why wouldn't we just borrow from the LGFA if we could get it at 1 to 2% less? Because that's a fairly significant amount of money.
Yes, the reason is because council territorial authorities are constrained by the debt to revenue covenant in the LGFA. So the case for investigating the IFF is that there isn't further headroom available.
And what is the purpose of that debt cap?
The purpose, I mean, it comes down to credit rating. I think it's that the upstream financiers want to limit their risk, their credit risk, is my understanding.
I think there are some very wide-ranging debates to come with any future government on how infrastructure is funded in this country. And I'm not sure, Councillor Bitterbutt, but there's been various information put out, including from Infrastructure New Zealand, who've got an election manifesto. The Auckland Mayor has put out his thoughts, and some of those talk to Greg's point, the government potentially guaranteeing debt of councils, potentially debt limits being increased, a range of city-type deals, and I think the white paper and the prospectus is Hamilton saying we want to be part of that conversation. In fact, not just part of the conversation, we've got some strong ideas, and so the principles we're actually saying if this is part of our future, this is how we think it should operate. And that's why Greg and Andrew went to Australia recently, and that's covered in the report, to understand what happens in Australia, to learn the good and the bad elements. So fundamentally, we can't continue on as a country trying to fund infrastructure as we have now. The model does not simply work. So we need to find and explore new ways. So we're trying to position Hamilton to be at the forefront of that conversation. And I think, again, it'll be fascinating to see after this weekend who is in power and what conversations they wish to have with the sector on that topic. But we're certainly setting ourselves up to be ready to be at the table. And what Councillor Angela was referring to was provide information to one party who's been engaged with us that would, if they were in government, that we would hopefully be at the table to talk with them. But equally, the prospectus is designed to talk to all parties as well. So we're trying to, in an uncertain world, keep as many options open as we can.
Okay. So just one final question. So we had a credit rating review by Standard & Poor's. If we have extra borrowing other than LGFA, wouldn't they look at that borrowing, even though it's off the books, and take that into account in our credit rating?
A very strong purpose in the legislation was to separate it from the council's balance sheet in a way that separates it from from that credit rating purpose. So effectively, the IFF tool is not effective if it sheets back whether it's in as debt or whether it sheets back in terms of its credit rating. So the way it works is they set up the special purpose vehicle, somewhat complicated fashion. It has a government support package. It has the deal is written in a way that council cannot. It doesn't have a redress back to the council. So I think the short answer, and I might have to check with an expert, is that it doesn't. And just to make one point in the IFF, so my job as I'm viewing it is to put the option on the table for council. So there's there's a lot of water to go on the bridge, but to put the option for council to choose whether or not to, and in the best terms I can, but it's not advocating for it necessarily, because I really think it is. There are consequences and benefits. So just to give you some comfort, my job is to try and make it an option for council, but not to, push for it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Councillor Emmer, I'll come to you in just one moment. I just had In terms of Councillor Andrews' questions around the debt cap and that, the covenants and things like that, it's something I'm quite interested also in just exploring. We have done that a bit when we've had our GFA come and speak with us. Is there maybe an opportunity for us to have a drop-in session or something to go into that issue further? I know it's of interest to some others as well.
I would suggest that that is highly relevant to the long-term plan conversations which commence tomorrow. So I think let's, and in fact, everything we've canvassed in this strategic issues report, affordable housing, infrastructure funds, the funding deals, IFF, are highly relevant to tomorrow. So I think, Chair Sarah, bring that up again tomorrow. And I think, as I've said, this is really fundamental to the conversations that need to be had between the sector and the future government. Yeah. Because ultimately it's not just our council grappling with this, it is all councils with the challenges of the growth, but equally the challenges of responding to the increasing compliance and obligations. And I don't wish to kind of prolong this conversation, but you would have might possibly been aware that Te Mata Arawai, the water regulator, has put 29 councils on notice. They've got between 12 and 18 months to rectify their water systems. Now that speaks to hundreds of millions of dollars investment. We're not one of those councils, but that's an example of the additional costs coming forward, and councils will be thinking, how do I address that in my LTP? So the very issues that IFF is operating in is going to be canvassed tomorrow, along with the wider considerations, funding and debt, etc. So I think, as Greg has said, we're providing the opportunity and the option for that conversation to occur, and if council wishes to deploy this tool, it's a tool that can be considered as part of the LTP.
Okay, I think.
The Finance Committee on the 31st of October, we will have the LGFA representative at that meeting. After the meeting, there is a proposed workshop to be able to ask questions of Andrew and to be able to explore further some of the answers that you're looking for.
Okay, excellent. Cool. Thank you. That's good to know. Thank you, Councillor Maxine. We can maybe take that offline around making sure we make the most of that time then. Okay, cool. Thank you.
As long as we have the time available to be able to do that. We do have a council meeting straight after that as well, so we might need to explore a working lunch option.
Okay. There's some good bakers around the table, not me, but... All right, Councillor Emma.
Thank you. Just a quick one, just wanting to clarify that the white paper also allows for us to negotiate for private partnerships or PPP funding opportunities as opposed to just government.
Yeah, I don't think it limits council's ability to negotiate in any particular way. It's more about, it's more about the principles of a relationship. Essentially, it's to, if we enter into negotiations for, like, say, the IAF, which was your central city funding, something like that, or bigger, where up front we can table, a set of principles how we'd like that relationship to operate. It doesn't matter all of them. Did you say? Sorry, did you say growth count? Oh, right. Okay, please confusing me. Putting cryptic notes. So a set of principles to anchor an initial conversation and to hopefully get picked up at the central government policy level. So Deputy Mayor mentioned that earlier on. So the purpose of the white paper is to try and penetrate the government, the funding partnerships, and do it through, it was sent out widely through politicians, senior officials. So it really is to let's just see if we can get some of these principles entrenched. And the reason for that is going back, we've had experiences through Shovel Ready, through IAF, through a variety of mechanisms where we just think this can be done better in a higher trust model, in a way where it's shared outcomes rather than purse holder, bidder, not the councillor, but and then delivery up to the council and with all overruns to the council. It was that sort of model that we just think's not delivering the best outcomes writ large. So that that's the principles piece of it. Please just put growth funding policy in front of me. So the growth funding policy, if you're not aware of it, it's a similar. It sort of was crafted for a similar reason, but more narrow in 2013, and it was the same thing in terms of this is the base minimum set of standards or for a major for the council to enter into a private negotiations with a big developer. So things like you need to take account of the council's strategic infrastructure network. So you're not just plugging in, you need to have responsibility for taking account of the network and various other things. So these sound kind of similar. We're going to bring the growth funding policy is up for review at the same time as the long-term plan. So that will come to you at least before public consultation in March. So probably comes in February.
Okay. Perfect, that covers it, thank you.
Cool. All right, I think we're at the end, just checking any more questions around the finance topic. Otherwise, we're at the end. Thank you very much, Greg and Hannah. Oh, sorry, Margo, JD.
Food, the Australian study tour, is that separate?
Yes, that was part of it.
Oh.
Greg was on that.
So
Do you want to, okay.
I've got a really quick question.
Take a moment, Greg.
Yeah, sure. Yep, absolutely.
So on paragraph 72.4, which is on page 26, so the report notes that New Zealand has advantages with its relationships with mana whenua. So my question is, were there any lessons learned either from the New Zealand delegation, i.e. Tauranga and Queenstown Lakes, or from the Australian hosts on how these relationships are or could be best incorporated into city deals?
Thank you, Mange Kana. Sorry, my glasses are blurry. Thanks for the question. Now, just to clarify, so you're saying in what ways did we learn about the Australian Indigenous people and how they incorporate their needs, wants into city deals in Australia, and how can we do that here with Māori and other groups? Is that right?
The council went with too, in terms of lessons learned from them.
Right. Yeah, a slightly delicate ground. I mean, I don't think they didn't appear in our experience to have anywhere near the same depth of engagement, consultation, and just the structure around how like Hamilton City Council, for example, can engage with Māori and iwi. And so those networks, and this is very superficial because I was only there for a short time. So that would be the first observation, is that we obviously have a strong, structure around engagement and that sort of thing. In terms of how Tauranga and Queenstown do it, I'm not sure I could say that there's any particular differences that I can think of.
Goodbye, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Okay. I don't think anyone's moved this yet, have they? So, Councillor Anna, I think you indicated you wanted to move this item? Or was it the next one? Next one, okay. All right, anyone who would like to move then? Happy to move, thank you, Councillor Moko. And second? Councillor Taylor, okay. All right, is there any debate? No debate, then we'll take it to, yes, all right.
I just want to acknowledge the work in the housing working group and just the commitment of the staff to that work and the various, I guess, challenges that are put forward not only from that working group but also from the Waikato Housing Initiative. And it is a challenging space, and I just want to I guess commend the staff on being responsive and open to the conversations that we're having there, and recognising, as was said this morning, that the inclusionary zoning piece is only one of the tools in the toolbox, and there's a whole lot of others that we are looking at. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Should we take it to the vote then? All those in favour of, I think we're just receiving the report? Say aye.
Carried unanimously.
Excellent. Okay, what we'll do is we're going to try and break by, it would be good to break by just after 11. So if we're not finished by then, I think I will break anyway, because I think that's good practice. So we'll just, we'll move on to the district plan update and invite Mark back. Unless we have any new information, should we take it as read?
Yeah, very happy for you to do that, Madam Chair.
And are there questions? So, hold on. I think we'll start with Plan Change 14, which is probably the biggest item in here. I'll open the floor for questions around that. None at this stage. Are there questions on any of the other items within the report, or just take it by exception? Councillor Jeff.
Yeah, thanks. Councillor Thompson, Chair. Page 72, Mark, Central City Development, and that little grid there, including internal planning, land use, blah, blah, blah. You go across to the commentary, it says policy assessment of car parking policy in the Central City has been completed. Is that off-street car parking, on-street car parking? And who's done the completing of this?
Yeah, good question, Councillor Taylor. So that piece of policy analysis was an internal focused piece of analysis stemming from discussions around this table from elected members and questions regarding where or how we had calibrated all our policies that relate to parking in some way, shape or form. And taking that as a whole, are we wanting to promote more car parking in the Central City, or are we wanting to limit car parking in the Central City? So, look, we found in that there is obviously different policy documents Council has signed off on. Some are clearly wanting to transition and to move to alternate modes other than the private vehicle. Equally though, within the district plan, there are some relatively enabling provisions within certain areas of the Central City for further car parking. So that piece of work was undertaken, and that's effectively what it found.
Yeah, it didn't quite answer the question. I guess I'm trying to work out. It says it's been completed, the policy assessment. Has this council got any oversight of that? Will this council get any oversight of that? I mean, when was it completed? Was this the previous council, or
this? Maybe the languaging isn't quite accurate there. So this was a memo that was produced internally by staff assessing those relevant internal policies to answer a question that had come from Mayor Paula and Councillor Ewan.
Okay.
We're happy to, I think there's no problem in us circulating that memo to all councillors. That's absolutely fine, and perhaps remiss that we haven't done so already.
No, thank you. I guess I'm just after a bit more than that. I'm after actually a chance for this council to actually discuss it.
Well, I think this provides the basis upon which to do that. So there's been feedback from the private sector and from businesses to say that we need more car parking in the Central City, and possibly council's policies in this space are not enabling of car parking. Those questions came back through elected members and the mayor. The question was then posed to staff: is what we're hearing the correct interpretation of council's policy settings? And we answered that by way of this memo that I've just summarised and we can circulate.
Great. Chair, yeah. I guess is there a mechanism by which this memo can be put in front of a committee formally for some discussion?
I'm just thinking I think it might be best if we take an action here that's generally that we find an opportunity for elected members to see it and discuss. There was some discussion around it, I think. We'll take an action that there is an opportunity to discuss, but I need to talk with governance around what, and also Councillor, Deputy Mayor Angela around the right forum and what that might look like.
So, right, so do you mind if I ask you, stuff discussed at Access Hamilton would normally come to your committee after that, would it not? Or other committees?
Sorry,
Yeah,
Councillor Taylor, where are you on the agenda, just so
Page 72,
I think
midway down for the grid policy, central
Councillor
city.
Jeff, what I will do is I'll make sure that there is an action, that there is some opportunity to talk with staff, even if it's just a drop-in session or to begin with a meeting with staff offline to understand the work, and then we can have some further discussion around where to from there. So
I think, and just further to Chair Sarah's comments, this is a topic that touches many committees. I think the origins of the debate probably came from the Economic Development Committee in context of hotels and parking for hotels, and feedback from the development community. It's clearly a topic in the Infrastructure Transport Committee in terms of the various initiatives, but also relates to this committee in terms of Central City, district plan, planning provisions. And so I think I agree with Chair Sarah. We probably just need to ascertain how we best link all the various conversations up to get the right pathway forward.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just unsure was this a decision were these decisions made last term or this term? Because I think every council probably needs a chance to have a policy on these.
yeah, so the parking policy was last term. Yeah.
And the issues have probably been raised as to, or the feedback.
So no, we'll make sure that there is some opportunity for discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Any other questions on any of the other topics within this report? Okay. Going. Now,
Madam Chair, before you go to debate, could I just make a point of clarification with respect to flood hazards and some of the data there? So I just want to be clear that the numbers referred to, so para 26 by way of example, and then para 33 as well. There's a point there where we refer to buildings, or nearly 24,400 buildings intersecting or near overland flow paths. That should be land titles.
Right.
And I think it's a very important distinction, because some flooding on the corner of a section or a land title or parcel is very different to flooding that is touching or over a building. So I just want to be clear on that point.
And just one question from me, Mark. When do you think we'll have a clear idea of the number of properties that will be affected in any really material way by the updated flood mapping or, the potential plan changes?
Well, I would say that we have that now for 90% of the city, and that's what some of these numbers refer to. I think what you're getting at is, well, okay, so we know property X might have a low flood hazard. The question then comes to, well, if I'm affected by a low level flood hazard, what does it actually mean in terms of my development rights for that property? And that is really what's being talked about in paragraph 32 in terms of those different options. And that's what we'll work through in pre-notification consultation, getting feedback from stakeholders and public on that before coming to you with a recommendation.
Okay.
Yep, so the inclusionary zoning resolution here is for us to also commence pre-notification consultation on inclusionary zoning. The report sets out the option that we're putting forward for that. So similar to flood hazards, we intend to go out and talk to the community and talk to key stakeholders regarding what we're proposing. We will conclude that. We will come back to this committee with feedback from that, and also with a effectively a developed plan change in terms of that that this committee can then make decisions on. And sorry, the timing question. So we would hope to do that pre-notification consultation over the next sort of 3 to 4, 5 months. All being well, with an aiming for a notification of the inclusionary zoning plan change in the first half of next year. Noting that we're wanting to do that in partnership with Waikato and Waipa, so that we get a consistent approach across the sub-region. And you know, like any sort of holding hands, that can sometimes be challenging to align resourcing, work programs and the like. So again, we'll keep you updated on that.
And just one question on that, Mark, is in terms of Matamata Piako, which is also now part of Future Proof and a close neighbour, they're actively considering the inclusionary zoning?
They're involved. They're certainly involved in the discussions.
Right.
Whether or not they proceed at this time with an inclusionary zoning plan change remains, you know, ultimately a decision for them to make. Yeah, but there's been strong intent, obviously signalled by Waipa and also by Waikato District to proceed with this.
Yep.
I think it would be certainly advantageous at all opportunities to politically encourage Matamata Piako, particularly with the Morrinsville community being relatively close to Hamilton, to also seriously consider inclusionary zoning. One of the disadvantages is we have a populous area close to Hamilton that doesn't have that provision. You may invariably have the market respond and go to those areas, which is driving the wrong type of outcomes in terms of settlement patterns. So we would love to see Matamata Piako as part of that same process.
Cool. Thank you. Now, cool. Thanks, Mark. Now we will go to the vote. So, Councillor Anna, you will move this one, and I will second. Let's go to debate.
Join with our public forum speakers this morning in celebrating this move forward for inclusionary zoning, but also for Plan Change 14, which I think Chair Sarah said in the paper this morning is a pragmatic or practical thing to be doing, so I totally agree with that. But in terms of inclusionary zoning, I think, well, it's somewhat concerning that it's taken us this long to address a market failure. Like, we absolutely know that the housing market has not delivered affordable housing for our community, and it's about time we did something about it. So I'm really pleased to see us taking the next step, and yeah, really congratulate the staff on all the work involved in doing that, and also really thank the WHI and the work that they do, because they do help us along in terms of getting to grips with what that definition might be, which is a really important part of this, and also the really important component around ensuring that perpetuity, because yeah, there's no point in doing this if we're going to lose it again to the market. So that's a really important part. And it's really awesome to see some developers coming forward already and suggesting their support for this approach. You know, Simon's suggestion that the benefits far outweigh the costs, just in terms of community benefit. And, you know, markets don't tend to produce public good outcomes, and this process will ensure that the market does produce public good outcomes. So it's really exciting, and yeah, happy to move this. Thank you.
Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Chair. Property investors and landlords will be looking at what is going on in Hamilton at the moment and thinking all of this is absolutely fantastic, because house prices and rents will be shooting up. Developers, builders, designers and councillors with an interest in affordable housing should be looking at plan change 9, 12, 14, the Three Waters capacity and everything else that's going on, with huge concern, because right now Hamilton is closed for business as far as building new brownfield development, and the door is closing on greenfield development. The level of uncertainty and potential cost that is being created in the market at the moment is putting people off, and I can predict a building consent crash of between 30 and 50%. This is going to be very serious over the next year until all of this mess is sorted out. It is not good for affordable housing. We've missed something completely.
Councillor Andrew? No, we're good? Okay. I'll say a few words. Infrastructure is the key issue here, and I wouldn't go as far to say as Hamilton is closed for business. I think that's being a little bit extreme in language, but the reality is that infrastructure constraints are affecting how much land is available to develop, particularly within our brownfields, but we're also seeing, constraints play an issue with our greenfield developments like Rotokauri as well. And the reality is we're going to need to invest more. We need to be able to borrow more to make these intergenerational investments. And you can look at this and go, oh, economic times aren't so good, let's pull back on investment, or let's put all this emphasis on, say, debt covenants and credit ratings and all this stuff. But ultimately, it's people, the ordinary residents, who are going to bear the cost in higher house prices if we don't put in the lead infrastructure needed to enable housing. And we can't make this message clear enough to central government, but also we have to be thinking about it through our LTP. So it's, in my view, the plan changes are sensible in terms of actually making sure that with what we've got in place, we are protecting say, future buyers of homes. So we're making sure we're not building homes that will be flooded and put others at risk. We're making sure that we are building in a way that's resilient. So we're not making emergency responses harder if we do have a rain event, for example. But ultimately, particularly when it comes to our wastewater infrastructure and Plan Change 12 and those infrastructure overlays, we have to do more in terms of putting that infrastructure to enable housing. I do want to, on a positive note, just say inclusionary zoning is a massive step forward because the market is not, we saw a huge supply in recent years, but we did not see supply of the kinds of homes and at the price point that many in our community need. So this is a way of, I guess, addressing that gap, that kind of housing that the market isn't providing. So it's a massive step, and I do want to acknowledge everyone who's been working on that. Thank you. Yes, right of reply, Councillor Anna.
That Waipa was second, they're not second. We are moving together, so we're all second. Oh yeah, just like the Broncos.
Excellent, I liked good right of reply. Okay, let's go to the vote. All those in favour of receiving the report and the noting there. Thank you.
Motion is carried unanimously.
Various notings. There are a lot of words there. Cool. All right. I think then what we'll do is we'll quickly, the general updates, as noted in Amy's email, that was just for information only. I didn't receive any requests to ask questions, but if there's anything you do want information on, just sing out to Blair or myself and we'll make sure you get that information offline. So can we, I'll move the general updates. I'm second to Councillor Maxine. All those in favour? Right, and then resolution to exclude the public. Thank you, and seconded by myself. All those in favour? Aye. All right, multitudes of public now need to leave the room. Work team. Yeah, we'll break until 11:15.